I think you have to weigh both factors, the business and the politics. CBS came out and said, look, it's just for entirely for financial reasons. Obviously, all these people have come out questioning that, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, other hosts in late night, even Paramount's other star, Jon Stewart, everyone's saying, well, come on, you've kind of lost the benefit of the doubt once you paid that settlement to Trump. You still have this tricky dance going on in Washington trying to get regulatory approval. So I think it's a little bit of an open question, but even that said, I mean, you have to say the late night format has been fading for a while. The numbers just look terrible across the board for the big three. They're losing their audience. They're losing their ad revenue. Just 5, 6, 7 years ago, those shows were still profitable. And now, we're seeing reports that, the Late Show was losing tens of millions of dollars a year. The advertising has dropped off by, 40, $50 million in the past 5 years. And it's really hard to justify, the show and a staff of 200 people in what are very lean times and growing leaner in broadcast television.
But why now? Was it bad last year too, or did it all of a sudden become increasingly not a great business?
It's been going downhill pretty steeply since COVID. And I think probably why now is that the network is looking forward to next year's numbers. They're putting together budgets. They're looking at, where they're going to spend their money in 2026. And, from what we're hearing is they did look at, could we cut the costs in the show? The show costs, more than $100 million a year to produce. Could they do it for less and maintain the format? And I think at a certain point they said, you know what? We're not going to spend that money. It's time to call it quits. Also, at the same time, there is political benefit for the network potentially to do this. And so how much of that influenced the decision? Jon Stewart came out last night on his show and accused the network of, pre-compliance. I think it's got to be a mixture of both factors. And, the truth is the numbers are not going to get better. It's kind of wild because, across the board, you look at comedy and the internet and social media and streaming has been great for comedy and all of these other formats. I mean, comedy clubs are doing really well. Big live comedy performances at stadiums are doing really well. Comedy podcasts are doing really well. The one thing that is not doing well in this current area of media consumption is the comedian-hosted late-night talk show. And it just has not transferred to this new era. And, Netflix has tried, multiple times to kind of replicate it. And, Netflix has been able to replicate, live sports. They've been able to do these hour-long dramas, reality shows. All these other formats have transferred to the streaming age. Every time a streamer has tried to do kind of a standard late night talk show format, it hasn't worked. Chelsea Handler, they did one, Joe McHale, Norm Macdonald, Michelle Wolf. So it hasn't been the talent. It's just really people don't want to watch topical talk shows that are kind of skimming the news of the day. The format was always, you had to watch it at that night, and it was somewhat of a disposable format. It just hasn't transferred to that on-demand world. I would say the one exception to that is if you look at HBO, John Oliver, his show has done well, but that's a really deep dive into one subject once a week through a comedic lens, and it has shelf value in 3 months, in 6 months. You come to it a year later, the topic is still interesting, it's still valuable. And, that's really not the case for a monologue that, is riffing off the news of the day. 3 weeks later, it's not really relevant.
Hey, Felix, just got about a minute left here. Can we make the jump that this isn't a political decision in that they're leaving him on air, right, for the rest of the year? And so,
until next year.
Or until next year, excuse me. And so there's a lot that he can say in the meantime. So can we make that jump that, right, if it was a political decision, they might have yanked him right away?
Yeah, they could have canceled right away. But at the same time, they do get some benefit from, it made Trump happy. He jumped on social media and got to claim victory and claim a scalp. So, yeah, he's going to be on the air until May. He's going to be hammering away at the Trump administration and might be hammering away at Paramount and CBS. But yeah, so they get a little bit of benefit. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I can see it both ways.